of Hat Trick Heroes. We are live and direct for another week. What an episode we have in store today, covering lots of different things, including obviously the Premier League coming back after international break, WSL's opening weekend, and the FPL, and much, much more. With me to do so, like every week, I'm joined by my two amazing, I keep saying guests, but they're not my guests, they're my co-hosts in terms of Wes and Nelson. So Nelson, first of all, it's great to have you back. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm considering that you guys are now adopted brothers and sisters to me, so we'll go down that route. I'm doing good. I'm hoping my mic doesn't pick up any police sirens. It's a bit hot around here, but we keep moving, and I'm really just back for another. Just so happy to be back for another episode, just talking everything about the game, the best game in the world. So yeah, good to be back, Holly.
Oh yes, 100%. We're also joined by yet again Wes. Wes, how are you, my friend too?
Yeah, all good, thank you. I, unlike Nelson, do not have the top boy police sirens going off in and around my area. I'm in a bit of a quieter spot, I have to say. But no, really looking forward to it. It's been a hectic week for me, but no, always enjoy being on this podcast. So yeah, let's get into it.
100%. Like I say, obviously, Hat Trick Heroes is the new podcast, the new place where you can get all things from the Premier League to the WSL and much, much more. So if you are tuning in on Holly's Hotspurs, make sure you head over to Hat Trick Heroes. And if you are on Hat Trick Heroes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button. And like I always say, this show is sponsored by the amazing Kofa. So Wes, I'm going to let you go away and do your thing. Bosh. So make sure that you go check out Kofa as well. But without further ado, let's kick things off because obviously it's the end of international break, which is lovely. I'm great to be back and talking all things about Premier League. So Nelson, first of all, game week 3. We have some tasty games coming up very, very soon. I'm going to start with the Manchester derby. Obviously, I believe City are at home against United. So how do you kind of see this one going down?
Um, I am hoping for another United beating. If I'm being honest, it's very nice to see their downfall at this very moment of stage in their history. It has been announced, quite recently, I think Omar Mamouche is out for the derby. Not sure how big of a loss that will be. I know Wes has said his kind of viewings, his opinions on Omar Mamouche, as well as a player and how he kind of contributes to City. But I think from Pep's perspective, I think that could be I wouldn't say a significant loss, but at least a loss in terms of how they would attack United's defense on the weekend. However, I mean they have the hottest striker right now on the planet. He's just bagged 5 goals for his country, so I think he'd be raring to. I think he'd be eager to just get out there and bag some more against United defense. So I am, Holly, looking at I think a comfortable City victory. However, I think when you look at last season, I think last season's game, I think was when Ahmad scored that last minute winner, and I think that's a game that a lot of people didn't expect United to go there and actually take it to City. So not sure how Amarim's going to set up for United, whether he's going to take it to City or kind of go on a defensive front. But I mean, we love our derbies. It's good to have one back, especially after the international break. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think I'm going to go for a City victory. So it looks quite good for City.
I think it's prime time as well on Sunday, Wes. So how do you kind of see it going down?
Yeah, good luck if you're Man United is all I can say. Good luck if you but United fans should celebrate if they get in City's half because the way it's been an interesting start for United because in the games that they've played, their overall play has been relatively okay. The results haven't quite matched that, and I think that's why United fans are probably acting slightly differently in the sense of they can see something and they are holding on to that little bit of hope now. But I just think the way this City team are, they're just gonna be relentless. And I know obviously Spurs done them over, but that's standard procedure that happens every season. So you can't really, it's not one of them that you go, oh wow, that was a bit of a shock result or whatever, because like I say, it happens every year. But I think this City team are going to come off the back of that defeat. I think obviously against us, they're going to come out. I can't remember who they played in their next game, but I think they'll want to prove a bit of a point in a big game. I think they've got the upper hand on United because I think United are still trying to work themselves out. So yeah, I see. I'm in agreement with Nelson. I don't see anything but a City win really.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as well. I think it's going to be very difficult for United. But then saying that, like Nelson said, they did come out of the blocks last time, so it'll be an interesting game. But obviously, I know we're on the theme of derbies, whereas it's not. I mean, it is a derby, but it's more of a cup final for West Ham because the next one for us is obviously Spurs versus West Ham at their gaff, I believe, too. So for you, how do you see this one going down?
It's Derby Day in my house, put it that way. And Westfield away, I think, as everybody else calls it. Um, it's going to be a proper interesting one. I think the timing of the fixture from a West Ham point of view is probably good, um, because obviously coming off the back of the international break, I think had it been at a different time, it's given the way West Ham have started the season, obviously not the best. I think we'd be going in with a little bit more confidence. I think the plus for Spurs is that key players haven't been injured in the international break, so we should be going with a relatively fit squad. I say relatively fit. I think like Solanke, obviously Madison, Kulusevski, obviously all injured still. So, is it a time for Xavi Simons to come and play and make his debut? I think so. I think Kolo Muani would probably start on that left hand side. But it's a game I'm looking forward to. It always has a little bit of spice, this fixture. Obviously, we know it's a London derby. We are probably one of West Ham's main rivals. Obviously, we know the rivalry they have with Millwall, but they don't play them that often. So they've kind of like looked at us and went, "Oh, we feel like we can reach you as a club, but it's that I always look at West Ham from a Spurs perspective as the little brother that gets mouthy every now and then, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? And Nelson will probably know he's got like three younger brothers, so yeah, he'll know what I mean in the sense of like your younger brother kind of has their day, but more often than not, the big brother kind of comes out on top. And I think given the way that West Ham have started, I feel fairly confident that we should we should get a win. If not, mate, my head's flying onto another planet. Let me tell you.
No, I think that's the thing because they are obviously 16th at the moment, Nelson. And obviously we've got a few stars that we want to kind of put out there. And also it's going to be the coolest kind of reunion type thing. So that'd be quite an interesting fiery one too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Hammers fans kind of react to Kudus coming back. I think one thing as a fan is, when you have one of your top players and and obviously leaving on a transfer, your hopes are that they never go to a rival. So I think Hammers fans are going to be quite bitter, and rightly so, in terms of maybe every touch he gets on the ball, they'll be booing him. But I think Kudus will love that. I think he will relish that opportunity to really give it back to, I won't say necessarily the Hammers fan. It could be more so within the board, because I think him going to a bigger club, in my opinion, like Tottenham, was a great move for him. And I think he's going to be one of the threats as well on the weekend. There's going to be key matchups. But as long as I think as long as Spurs nullify the threats, especially up top in Bowen and Paqueta, I think you're looking at a comfortable victory there. But it's always a fiery one. It's one of those underrated, like Wes said. It's not an official derby, but it's an unofficial one that people still respect and love the rivalry between both sets of fans. So I think it's going to be a tasty game, and I always look forward to these unofficial derbies. So yeah, but I think in terms of how both teams are going to set up, I'm very much thinking that I think it's going to be a Spurs win, but we'll have to wait and see. Holly.
We will. And another thing as well, because obviously we've spoken a lot about Tottenham. We're going to talk about the other side of North London because Nelson, Arsenal are playing Forest, and in the last couple of days, there's been a bit of kind of turmoil going on at the club in terms of they have sacked Nuno. I mean, how do you, as Arsenal, go into this one? How do you approach it, or do you think it's just another one of those games that you just need to win?
Oh my gosh, I'm actually nervous because I think one of the worst things you want to do as a football player, in my opinion, is play a team with a new manager bounce. And that is what I am expecting heading into that game against Forest on the weekend. Not sure how they're going to set up, but it will be an interesting encounter. And I think a certain someone at the helm for Forest will be looking to try and win against Arsenal because of his ties to Lily Whites as well. So it will be very interesting to see how that goes down, Holly. But from an Arsenal perspective, I think they should be very cautious. And again, similar to the other side of North London, it's actually one of those international breaks that we're really happy that most of our players have come back feeling fresh and actually not, being injured. So I think Arteta will be very much looking forward to playing a full strength team. We'll see how that goes. And I think the one thing Arsenal fans are more worried about is about creating chances from open play. I think when you look at that game against Liverpool, one of the things that was quite alarming, or many fans had raised, was the fact that Arteta's formation and the way he started that game against Liverpool, it felt like he was going for a draw rather the intention of going to win. So depending on how he sets up against Forest, I think you're going to look at a couple of changes. You're probably going to look at more risks. I'd love to see Ethan Nwaneri come in. If Odegaard isn't going to be fit to start, and I would love to see a home debut for Eberieze. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I think as Arsenal fans, Holly, to answer your question, they need to actually be cautious. I don't think we're going to look at that game. Me personally, I'm not looking at that game and thinking it's going to be a cakewalk. I think it's more so, Forest are going to have that bounce, and I think Big Ange is going to come in and ruffle some feathers in a good way. In a good way, I think. In a good way.
I think that's the thing because when obviously Nuno got sacked, which again I still think wasn't a shock, but was a shock with everything that had been going on and him coming out in press conferences and basically not feeling happy about the situation or the way his team was kind of going under him, and obviously from higher up. But were you kind of taken back? Or was it a shock that Ange is the man to take over at Forest?
I was shocked in the sense that, given the job that Nuno's actually done at Forest, obviously he'd done a really, really good job in a short space of time. And he obviously came out and said the squad isn't where he thought they wanted to be. And I think the big reason for that is probably because they didn't know what European competition they were going to be in. So if you look at the Premier League as a whole this summer, there's probably two managers that are probably the most unhappy with their squads, which is Glasner and Nuno, and they've publicly come out and said it. Why? Because of all the turmoil going on in and around the whole kind of Palace situation with the multi-club ownership and that getting sorted really late. So it felt like those two were sort of playing catch up. But interestingly, after Nuno came out and said that, Marinakis then spent over 100 million on players. So it wasn't as if, and I think credit where it's due to Marinakis, he has given, Cooper, Nuno, and I suspect now Ange the funds to build the team and the squad in the way that the manager wants. But with Marinakis, I don't think anything's a surprise. He seems to be, I wouldn't say a hothead, but he can be quite rash in making decisions. And now Ange coming in, it's a complete flip of styles. Obviously, Spurs have had it where we went from Pochettino to Mourinho, and then we had Nuno that was, we didn't know what that was, to be honest. Social experiment, I think. Then we went back to Conte, that was like even more defensive than Mourinho, and then we went to Ange, which is the complete opposite, and ultra attacking. And obviously now we're with Frank, and it's a bit more, I wouldn't say pragmatic, but a bit more balanced in terms of how we play. Or that's the impression that I get. So I think Andrew's going to come in. Obviously, we know probably more than most it's going to be, I wouldn't say gung ho, but literally all out attack, attacking football. What I did like about Marinakis though was him kind of crediting Andrew's success, not just from Tottenham, but other jobs that he's been in, because I think that was one thing that was labelled at Andrew's like, oh, he hasn't really done it in. But actually, when you look back at his CV, I mean, it's hard to win league anywhere and get success anywhere, regardless of like the standard and everything else. It's hard to win, and I think Andrew's proven that he can win. So obviously now he's got that balancing act again of Europe and Premier League. I think he's probably better for his Tottenham experience. And listen, he always wins things in his second season. So I think I saw a couple of the club admins that are playing Forest in the Europa League and going, I'm glad we're facing Ange in his first season and not his second season type of thing. So no, it's gonna be exciting, I think, for Forest. He's got some good attacking players as well. Obviously, Amari Hutchinson, McAtee. I mean, Elliot Anderson has just turned into one of the like I reckon it could be one of the most coveted midfielders now in the Premier League, just given his after his international break. So he's got the base of a really good squad. Obviously, Gibbs White in there as well. Douglas Luiz can provide that defensive solidity in midfield. Obviously, you've got Murillo and Milenkovic that headed and kicked everything last year. So I think Ange's got the foundations there, going off the back of what Nuno's built of a really good side. Um, it's going to be just so interesting though to see how he changes
Yeah.
it, how he molds it to the way that he wants to play. Obviously, with Spurs, we were fairly open anyway, so it didn't really make much difference. But Forest were very, very, rigid and structured in their defensive structure, so not much space in between lines. And I think that's why teams struggle to break them down. We know with Ange that's not going to be the case, but it's just going to be interesting to see how front-footed he's going to be with his new Forest team.
I think as well, Nelson, quickly come to you. I think we as Spurs fans had a massive thing that he wouldn't really adapt. And obviously under Thomas Frank, we seem to see adaptation throughout the game, not just game to game. Do you think that's something that he's still going to struggle with? Or do you think he's come to Forest with maybe new eyes and be like, right, if I do need to adapt, I'm going to have to, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think, Holly, that's a good question. I think Ange is probably going to come in with a fresh perspective, probably with the same ideas and his philosophy, because that's the one thing I think we've spoken about it many a time when we were talking about whether or not he should still be in charge for you lot. And the one thing that I had mentioned was that I could see a potential change in culture. So Nuno has built something at Forest, and whether or not Ange is going to come in and completely flip it, we'll have to wait and see. But I think I back him this time. I back him. I think he has something to prove to everybody, to all his doubters out there. So I'm actually rooting for him because I think he's just a good bloke, anyways, as well. I think he's a good human being, and that's something that many players as well want as a man, want from a manager. Great coach, great man management, but also just being a great human being. So I think Nuno was also that for the players, but I think they're getting an even, in my opinion, an even better human being in Ange. So we're gonna have to wait and see. I think there's less pressure, so I think less pressure in terms of the club that he's in, because Forest have obviously come up in recent seasons and have stayed in the Premier League, and have essentially now with Europe, he's obviously got the familiarity of playing in the Europa League and winning it. So I think he'll feel comfortable with it. I think handling a squad as well with 2 games kind of per week. I am rooting for him, Holly. I have not said this for a manager in quite a while, but I'm actually very much rooting for him. I do feel sad for Nuno, in the sense that I think what he was building was actually something really good at Nottingham Forest. I think that the community, I think in terms of just the whole city in itself, were loving what he was building. And I think as well, he mentioned, I think one of the first things he came out in public and spoke about was his relationship with Marinakis. And I think the recent appointment of Edu had a big factor to play. I read an article on The Athletic where they mentioned how I think Edu coming in, I think, has shifted and changed the relationship. And me being an Arsenal fan and knowing what Edu did at my club, thank you, Andrea Berta, for the signings you brought us this season, because Edu has, I think this is a man that just talks the talk. In my opinion, he just talks the talk, and I think as a director of football, he doesn't have the what was that thing that Troy Deeney said when Watford versus Arsenal, the cojones. Do you know what I mean? I just think he lacks that in terms of going out there and being ruthless in getting your players. Obviously, Marinakis will provide the money, but whether or not someone like Edu was is someone that is going to get it over the line, for me, he just doesn't seem that person. I've seen that in the future. I've seen that at Arsenal. So I hope that doesn't affect how Forest recruit and how they get players in the future, because I think Ange could, with the squad that he's inherited, like Wes mentioned, he could go on and build something even bigger. So we'll have to wait and see.
I think that's the thing, and like you say, I do feel sorry for Nuno. And like Roy said, it obviously he was at us for a short stint. He was going to make us proud, and it didn't really kind of fall into that. But he did do wonders at Forest. So wherever he kind of ends up next, because I would assume he's going to look to go somewhere else, or hopefully be picked up by another team that he does really well. Because like I say, what he did with Forest was immense. But obviously, like we said, it's got lots of exciting fixtures coming up. I'm very glad the international break is done and dusted, because it just drives me insane. But it kind of leaves us and moves us on to the WSL, because it was the opening fixture this weekend. And now I would normally come to Nelson first, but I'm going to come to Wes, because obviously on last week's show, Wes said that Everton may struggle in the WSL. But instead, they managed to thrash Liverpool this weekend. So, Wes, what have you made, obviously, of that opening game? I believe it was 4-1 from my notes, Everton versus Liverpool. It wasn't at Goodison Park, so I'll give you that one. That's still to come. But what have you kind of made, maybe of the opening weekend, but more importantly, that game individually?
Yeah, I think that was probably the biggest shock of the weekend. It wasn't necessarily the victory for Everton; it was more like the margin of scoreline. But listen, it's game one. Do you know what I mean? There's a long way to go. It's not a it's a marathon, not a sprint. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, looking at it, yeah, that one proper shocked me. So I was like, geez, because I know Liverpool have lost. Nelson will probably tell me more, but obviously losing Olivia Smith to Arsenal. That's a big loss for Liverpool. But yeah, and it's obviously never nice to lose a derby anyway, and all that goes with that. So yeah, I think like credit to Everton, they did their job. They did what they kind of had to do. So who knows? They could end up potentially being a surprise package, and that could be in a positive way or also a negative way. Is all I'm going to say on that one.
No, it's fair. And to be fair to you, you did say that Goodison was potentially going to be the thing that was going to not, what's the word, elevate their game, because obviously playing in such a stadium with so much history, and they were away for this game, so that might be it. But Nelson, it was a big victory for them, wasn't it?
It was fantastic. I want to obviously point out a player that a lot of people might not know if they're watching today on this podcast. Ian Wright had mentioned her quite a while back when I think one of the England youth teams had beaten Spain 10-1, and she was the only like goal scorer in that match, Ornella Vignola, who scored the hat trick for Everton. 20 years of age, I think, is a fantastic young talent. Played in the Barcelona academies, and then went to Granada, and then has now come to Everton. I think it's a really good signing from Everton. She still has a lot. The ceiling is high for her, in my opinion, and I wouldn't put it past her for her to get double digits this season in the WSL. The way in which, if you look back at that hat trick, I think it had everything. I think it was close to being one of those perfect hat tricks, right foot, left foot, and header. But her first goal, go back and watch her first goal. The way she kind of spins her defender, cuts back in, and then just calls that left-footed shot into the bottom corner, near the edge of the box, was fantastic. And Liverpool had chances. I think Liverpool will rue the chances that they missed in that game. But it was a fantastic victory, Holly, and I think that's going to give them a big boost heading into their next game.
Defo, 100%. And we will get onto that next game a bit later on. But obviously the next kind of game, and Nelson, I'll come to you for this one, because obviously it was Arsenal playing London City. And I know we spoke heavily on last week's show about the investment that London City have kind of had so far in this transfer window. But obviously you did manage to beat them 4-1, Arsenal. So was that kind of expected, or did you think that scoreline was big compared to what we were kind of talking about last week in terms of investment into London City?
It was a very entertaining game, I think, for many Arsenal fans. I couldn't go. I gave my tickets to a good friend of mine, and my friend at that time was very impressed with the first half for London City Lionesses, because even though they were down 2-1, I think they showed a lot of fight to kind of stay in the game. This is not a team that is just full of just kind of like people would kind of say above average players. No, we've got 4 internationals in this squad. And I think the captain who stepped up, Aslani, was scored against England in Euros. Like, they have a team full of internationals, and I think their depth will go a long way in actually helping them potentially stay up. So I was very much impressed with them, Holly, especially in the first half. But I think Arsenal's quality just came through in the end. I think when you sign a player for more than $1 million and you're wondering why you sign that player, and then she goes and bangs it for about 25 yards, then you're like, okay, the money makes sense. So like my reaction at that point, I think I nearly knocked my girlfriend over like when that happened. And it was a fantastic kind of game to watch. And in terms of like Arsenal, just kind of the depth in there is ridiculous. Like, to bring on the likes of Stina Blackstenius, Beth Mead, and Caitlin Ford, like those 3 subs in particular, like any team looking at that bench are thinking, oh my gosh, we still have to deal with these 4 internationals. So it was a comfortable victory for us in the end. We could have scored more. But if I'm a London City Lioness fans, and the turnout, by the way, from the away fans was fantastic. I think you got to give credit to them, and I'm rooting for them this season. I think they're like becoming everyone's kind of second favorite team because they're kind of an independent club. There's no attachment that you have towards them, like they have no rivals as of yet. So everyone's kind of like looking forward to seeing how they're doing. So if I'm there, I'm really pleased, Holly, and I think they have a lot of promising future.
I think so as well, because obviously, when it comes to you, we spoke about a lot of transfers and business that they did in the transfer window, and then obviously, like Nelson has said, with all the kind of depth that Arsenal have, it is going to be a massive opening game for them.
Yeah, I think it was one of them where, from what I could make out, I didn't kind of catch too much of the game. I had like people round, so but from what I could make out, it was like London City Lionesses had like a fairly strong 20 minutes, and then it was almost like Arsenal's quality then came through. I think obviously London City Lionesses went 1-0 up, I believe. So that's kind of like, I think you see it a lot, obviously, in the men's game where like a newly promoted side plays like one of the title favourites on the opening weekend, and that newly promoted side go 1-0 up early because they've got I know this was away for London City Lionesses, but they've got that. They're still buzzing off the adrenaline of playing against, a real sort of high ranked team. And yeah, it kind of felt like Arsenal's quality then came through and shone through in the end. But yeah, I think London City Lionesses, they're either going to compete in the top half of the table, I think, this year, or the gelling of the team is going to take too long and they're going to run out of games. And I think they might end up getting a little bit stuck in that sense because they have bought a lot of players. So they've got to make it gel and they've got to make it happen quickly. And I think the WSL in particular is unforgiving in the sense of if you lose a couple of games on the bounce, you are bang in trouble. And it's really hard. It's even harder to get out of that rut because you don't have as many games as of yet. So that could be a slight concern, I think, for London City Lionesses if they do get in that little bit of a rut where they almost feel like that team that will play really well but not necessarily get the rewards, if that makes sense. But
Mm.
I have a feeling that they have enough in their armory, obviously, like Nikita Paris, Katie Zellum, etc., to kind of get themselves out of trouble. But they need to be careful with gelling that team and making sure that happens quickly from my perspective. My unqualified perspective is what I'm going to say.
It's a good comment though. Like you say, it does take time to, especially with a team that's coming into that top division with loads of players that they've kind of brought in. It is going to take time naturally for them to gel. So it is a fair point. And Wes, I'm gonna keep with you because obviously, on the other flip side of obviously things, I want to talk about the Chelsea City game to start with, because obviously it was 2-1. And again, it's one of those that we know that Chelsea have been quite a big powerhouse in the WSL. So to some aspects, this maybe isn't a shock result. But City have had a few good players in their time as well. So for you, was this game? I mean, it was a close game, as the scoreline would say, which is a bit different to other games that have happened in the WSL this weekend.
I'm glad you said it was a close game because this was a game I couldn't actually watch. I was coaching and then playing straight after. But I feel like those two teams are going to be in and around the mix for the league come the end of the season. Obviously, with Arsenal in there, Arsenal probably finishing second, a bit like the men's. It's one of them where I think in times gone by, I think the games Chelsea City kind of go like Chelsea will win one and then City will kind of win the reverse fixture. So I feel like Chelsea have a really strong home record anyway. So I don't feel like obviously them beating City. I know Chelsea were at home. I don't think that's a big shock. And like I say, I have a feeling that City will potentially turn Chelsea over at the Joy Stadium. In the reverse fixture, because like I say, I think that's kind of what's tended to happen in the last few meetings, and things like that. So yeah, I think it was obviously they're going to be up there. Two really good sides, got good players, full of internationals, and I think the scary thing from a Chelsea perspective is that they've got Ramirez to come back in January from her ACL injury. And then once she's up and firing, yeah, it's peak for some teams in the WSL.
No, definitely. I mean, I'm just looking at the stats, and it does say that City had 17 shots compared to Chelsea's 8. However,
Mm.
5 of them were on target for City, and 3 of them were on target for Chelsea. So, in that kind of respect, it was a close game because, again, possession was fairly even too. So, Nelson, for you, what was your kind of takeaways from this match?
Um, I think Chelsea. I mean, the fact that they could have Myra Ramirez coming back in January is scary enough. Sam Kerr, I think, didn't even get much. Lauren James is Lauren James. And then you have a bloody new right back that they've brought from Leon, who is a full Aussie international, and Ellie Carpenter, who, if you look back, if I recommend everyone to go watch the highlights, and you just see her sprinting down that right side, bombing up and down. It's your traditional old right back, like can go up, can go down, can actually dribble the ball and find a good person in the box. She was the player of the match. She was relentless, and I think adding that weapon to your arsenal is scary hours for the rest of the league. So for me, she was fantastic, and she just added a new dimension to Chelsea's attack. I think Chelsea City, what they did really well was cut off Chelsea's kind of path through the middle, because Chelsea love to play through the middle. And then, I mean, the fact that I think they were unprepared for someone like Ellie Carpenter on the wings, I think just kind of done them over. And Chelsea knew that and kept finding her and kept finding. Alex Greenwood, we know how fantastically good Alex Greenwood is, but even for pace, she was beat time and time again on that right side. So it was a cracking game overall. I think a lot of fans who were there thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it was a fuck. Oh, I was about to say a very bad word there. I'm so sorry. It was a bloody great start to the WSL, Holly, is all I have to say. So it was a fantastic victory for Chelsea, and I am very scared because I do expect them to win it again. So we'll have to wait and see. But a great start to the season.
I'm going to stay obviously in the realm of United City because obviously United also won 4-0 against Leicester. And Nelson, I'll stay with you with this one because obviously Toon scored once again for United. Again, it's going to be another team that's going to be up and amongst in the mix.
Yeah, United. I think credit to United's ladies, because with what they have to deal with their owner, the way that they just kind of play through and so resilient. I love watching them play. And Mallard was on the score sheet. I think Tooney was outstanding. She got a goal and an assist, and she credited the goal to her dad, her late dad. And she was a star performer. She just makes everything tick in that United midfield. And Elizabeth Turland, who's fantastic. You could you didn't sense that they lost Grace Clinton, is all I'm going to say. She went to the other side of Manchester, and for them to bang 4 against Leicester proves that I think the United managers got things sorted, and I think United, I think, are going to thrive from a lot of free flowing football. I think one of the underrated defenses in the league as well. And obviously, me and Wes had made predictions earlier of the season, Hurley, that Leicester City would go down. So it's looking like a very long season for Leicester City, especially if they're, like Wes said, if they get in that rut of losing like 3 or 4 on the trot, then they're so far behind. But it was a convincing victory for United, Holly.
Definitely. And obviously, Wes, I'm going to come to you because I want to not talk about United. I want to talk about obviously Tottenham because we did beat West Ham at the weekend and your girl, Beth England, scored the penalty pretty much in the dying moments of the game. So, what did you kind of make of that game?
Oh, I just know a player when I see one, guys. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on now, get that talent ID qualification to good use. Yeah, again, from what I wanted to try and watch it, but I wanted to try and watch it in isolation. But the Sky kind of had their multi view on, and it didn't work for me. It was like too much carnage on one screen. Couldn't really deal with it. But again, it kind of felt like, from what I've seen, that Tottenham didn't play massively well, but found a way to win, which is a massive contrast to what the manager came out and said, where he was like, "Yeah, I felt like we deserved the win. We were the better team." Da, da, da. I think the penalty, you've seen them given, you've seen them not realistically. But listen, Beth England's just clutch. It's what she does. She Gareth Bales us out time and time again. So hopefully the men's was watching it, because if the women can beat West Ham women, the men can hopefully beat West Ham men on Saturday. So yeah, but I think the important thing for Spurs was that we got off to a winning start, because I think wins last year were really hard to come by. I don't even think we won in 2025. I want to say in the WSL last season. So again, got into that rut of just losing games and stuff like that. And then obviously that's where we found ourselves like right in the mix of a relegation battle, pretty much. So yeah, it was good to get off to a winning start, and hopefully the girls can sort of kick on and try and have a half decent season. I think for Spurs, a top half finish would be an outstanding season, given the investment of other teams and the quality of other teams that are higher up in the league at the moment.
Good shout. And obviously, I'm going to stay with you, Wes, because obviously who we play next is Everton at Goodison. So
Ooh.
hopefully, what you said comes into fruition, and Everton don't have a great game against us.
Well, if Beth England's playing, mate, she's a nightmare to play against. So I would not want to play against Beth England. And then my mate Ash Neville coming down the wings from fullback positions. I think I feel a little bit sorry for Ash, because I think in the last couple of seasons she has been ridiculously consistent. And then there's been shouts for an England call up. Her problem's Lucy Bronze, who's one of the best in the world. So she's kind of, and she's not at an age where you go, oh, we'll give it a couple of years and you might be in. She's a fairly similar age, I think, to Lucy Bronze. There's only a couple of years in it, so it's not like, oh, look, just bide your time. But I feel a little bit sorry for her in that sense. But obviously she can play both sides. But I just think the players ahead of her are just, from an England perspective, are a little bit too far away from her in that sense. But I think she's been like Mrs. Consistent, so to speak. Like, you know what you're going to get from her every game. You know, kind of 7 out of 10. And yeah, I kind of do feel sorry for her, like I say, because I think in any other kind of time she would be in and around like an England setup, but it's just unfortunate that she's got what she's got in front of her, to be honest. But yeah, hopefully the Everton team kind of are rabbits in headlights and playing at Goodison, because it's going to be completely different to what they're used to. They've gone to pretty much playing at like a part-time team's ground, and now they're coming into obviously Goodison, and as I said last week, with everything that goes with that. So yeah, hopefully they're rabbits in headlights and Spurs can get off to a good start and a quick start, and maybe go an early goal, and then that will really put the cat amongst the pigeons with that one, I think.
Hopefully, like I say, it'd be good to get 3 points off of them as well. But Nelson, the other big game of next weekend is obviously London City versus United. How do you kind of see that one going down in terms of maybe players to watch out for? Who do you think is going to have the better game, etc., etc.?
It's going to be a tough one, Holly. I think it's going to be a tough one for London City Lionesses to be specific. I think United are going to come there, off the bounce of smashing Leicester. They're going to be buzzing for that game. But for London City Lionesses, it's a big, big game. I think this will set the tone potentially for their season. If they end up losing, then like was said, again, for the WSL, they could end up in that rut. And you don't want to lose 3 on the bounce to start your new season as an independent club in the league. You don't want to start with 3 losses on the spin. So in terms of players to look out for, in terms of London City Lionesses, I will always look at their captain Aslani, full international, really steadies the team in terms of her link-up play. There was a winger, I can't remember her name, but I will definitely figure it out at some point. But she was on the left wing against Arsenal, and she caused a lot of problems for Emily Fox. So I think she is one to watch out. I think if Nikita Paris can get in those really good positions up top, she could be. She used to play for United as well, so she might be relishing that opportunity to play against her former club and score her first goals for London City Lionesses. Also at the back as well, Alana Kennedy. She was, again, in the first half, I mentioned Lionesses had a fantastic first half, and she was one of the bright sparks in that defence. Really assured, kept the high line, and really did well to cover for any kind of mistakes that happened within midfield. For United, it would be Tooney. It would be the whole attack, really. Tooney, Mallard, Turland, Riviere, Bizet, like they would all be like the ones to kind of watch out for, because I think one thing that I've noticed is that United do have a really good chemistry, and the fact that, like I mentioned, they don't miss a certain Grace Clinton. I think I would expect a United victory, Holly, but I think the London City Lionesses should be up for it, and I think it will be a very good turnout for the fans as well. I think the fans will be out there and really give a good turnout. So I don't think it'll be a rabbit in headlights situation, as Wes mentioned, for Everton, but I think the London City Lionesses will be up for it. So my prediction would be a draw, but I think in kind of reality kind of sense, I think United will get the win.
It is going to be an exciting weekend of football, both for the WSL and for the Premier League. Like I say, if you are watching this on Holly's Hotspurs, make sure you head over to the Hat Trick Heroes and hit that subscribe button over there and the like. It obviously helps us out and makes you part of the new home of this show. But before we kind of go, let's move on to obviously our FPL. And Nelson, I'm going to come to you first because obviously we've been talking about WSL. So I'm going to bring your one up now so everybody can kind of see. So if you want to kind of explain what kind of went on, and also where you kind of do the WSL, because I know you mentioned off air that this is slightly different to the Premier League one.
Yes, it's a unofficial, unofficial official fantasy app for the WSL. It's called Aerial Fantasies. You can see just near the goal of my team, and they are fantastic in what they do. And the way you start the season is obviously you have, similar to the FPL, you get 100 million budget, and then you just kind of work out the players that you want. And in my opinion, I think these players are way more expensive than the men's league, and I struggled to form my squad, but I've ended up coming to this squad. And as you can see, I kind of targeted that game against Leicester City for United, and Ella Toon has got me 26 points as my captain. So that was a fantastic day out for me. I focused also on Chelsea against City because they were at home, and Agabiva Jones was on the score sheet. And Yui Hasagawa was also someone that I think is going to be very important for City this season in midfield. I've gone for youth up front, as you can see, Michelle Adjiman and Nikita Paris as well, which I have kept in my squad. But I have made some changes already, Holly, to my squad for next week. Off the back of her hat trick against Liverpool, I've gone for Vignola in midfield. And also, I've actually swapped out Nikita Paris for the Capox. She scored the first goal in that Merseyside derby, and they'll be playing Leicester City away from home. So similar to how, I tell everybody in the FBL to kind of focus against like the team that you think will finish kind of bottom. That's what I've gone for my strategy this season. In defense, I've never had zeros before in my defense, but that was obviously Yana Fernandez playing against Arsenal, and then Grace Fisk obviously losing to Everton. So that's how it's turned out. But I don't think it will be like that for the rest of the season. So 59 points on the opening weekend. I'm very happy, but I am looking to hopefully crack that 100 points for one game week at some point. But fingers crossed, we'll have to wait and see.
Oh no, I'm very excited. Like I say, if I can manage to do Premier League FPL, I may venture into this at some point. But at the moment, it's too hard for me to do both. But no, it's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what your points will be next week, Nelson. But we're going to move on to FPL now, because we need to see the points difference going on here.
Oh.
Jay is also in the chat as well about FPL knowledge because he wanted me to make. Well, he didn't want me to make a special mention, but I will because I am nearly top of all my leagues, apart from this one, Holly's Hotspurs, because a certain someone is at the top currently, which is Jason. So that's why he's come in and said something. But Wes, I'm going to let you do the honours and explain what kind of went on with your team first.
Yeah, it was a bit of a sticky weekend. Obviously, I thought that West Ham were going to continue being awful, and they decided to turn up. So that's why obviously Milenkovic hasn't kind of got the points I was hoping for, or Matt Sells, to be fair. I think Trufer and Munoz actually picked up some good points, which was a little bit unexpected from me. Obviously, Haaland, João Pedro 9 apiece, and Jai 7 points. But yeah, it wasn't my best day. Made some changes. I put Munoz in and swapped out Milenkovic because obviously Forest are playing Arsenal, and I think Ange's high line may be an issue for Milenkovic because he's not necessarily quick. If anybody watched him last night take out Harry Kane, you know what I mean. I think I also took out Hudson-Odoi and have put in Ekitike because obviously Liverpool play Burnley this weekend. So couple of changes in there, but yeah, it wasn't my finest week. It wasn't the week I got 90 or however many points I did get the other week, which you didn't want to show, Holly. But it's quite interesting. You want to show your team now. You got over 50 points, so it'll be interesting to see what happens next week.
Yeah, I
Whereas
probably won't show it next week.
sometimes it be your own people, whereas sometimes it be your
I
own
mean,
people.
I thought your friends clapped the loudest when you won, but I'm just throwing that one out there. And then Jay, just want to mention to you as well that red Wimbledon shirt is a great fit, especially from somebody from Milton Keynes that had to wear it once upon a time. It was a great fit for me.
I can hear him next to me. But no, I brought it up because obviously I managed to get some points. I mean, further down the line where I'm scoring about 20, I won't be showing it. But I mean, our teams are sort of similar in terms of obviously Menyo, Ryan, I can't say his name, João Pedro, Sells as well. But I think it's because obviously I made Haaland captain. I think Salah's having a bit of a stinker, but I can't remember who they're playing at the weekend, and I think I need
Burnley,
to keep.
Burnley.
So I need to keep him in, I think. But then after that,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to ditch him off. But there's a few changes I need to make, but in pure Holly fashion, I haven't got around to it yet. So I need to make sure that I do. But like I say, we'll definitely have to see how we are shaping up next week and see where people in the chat are as well in terms of the league, because it is shaping to be an exciting one. But I guess that kind of leads us to round everything up. Obviously, talking about the Premier League coming back, the fact that international break is finally over, talking about obviously the WSL, and then moving on to FPL. Well, that's a lot of letters in that. But it's been a good evening tonight to kind of dissect it all, and I think we've done it in a really good time as well. And I'm hoping that everybody that's listening, that's watching, that's going back to rewatch this, make sure you go and subscribe to Hat-Tricks Heroes so we can get more of you in the chat and more of you in the discussion. But without further ado, let's go around the table and say our goodbyes. So first of all, Nelson, thank you once again for being part of the show. Where can everybody find you doing your thing?
Thank you, Holly. It's been another fantastic episode. I really enjoyed today. You can find me on Instagram, guys. N Natumba 25. So that's N and then my last name, Natumba, as you can see on screen, and 25 on Instagram.
Bosh, lovely stuff. And Wes as well. I'm ready for the outro, my friend. Where can everybody find you too?
Yeah, Twitter's at Wes010, unofficial Musa Dembele fan account. Been fairly excited on X today because the trailer for the new Football Manager came out and it is looking juicy. Let me tell you that right about now. New game engine, the lot. So yeah, I've been quite excited that dropped today, coming out on the 4th of November for those that play it on a laptop as well. Just a quick FM plug. I don't even work for them, but fair play. And then Instagram's at Wezo32. Tend to be at Spurs games. I don't think I'm at the Villarreal one in midweek. Other commitments and whatever are in the way. But yeah, I'm likely to be at the Wolves home game. I think that's my next one. So if anybody does see me, I will be in and around the South Stand, maybe in and around the Shelf Bar as well. I like going over there. Quite a good atmosphere. So yeah, but obviously the lovely people at Sky, when they said that football was for the fans and put Spurs Wolves as an 8 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with that one. And then anything football coaching related is Kofa MK across your socials. Bosh.
Bosh. Yes, Celeste guy, I like that. It was like in time. But like I say, thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Thank you to everybody that's rewatching. Make sure that you obviously do subscribe, hit that like button so you never ever miss an episode. And I guess that kind of leaves us to say, well, see you all next week. And until next time, up the Hat-Trick Heroes.
Hey.